My guest today on Straight Talk is Nigel Farage, former commodities broker in the city, now a member of the European Parliament and leader of the UK Independence Party. Nigel Farage, if the next election is close, and it could well be close in this country, how would you feel if your main impact was to win nothing but stop the Tories from winning?
That's a rather simplistic way of looking at it. It makes an assumption that all the votes that UKIP get come straight from the Conservative Party. That simply isn't the case. In fact, I think our biggest target audience are the 9 million people who voted in 1992 and who don't vote for anybody in general elections today. So that's the first thing to say, is we draw support from across the spectrum. But if the effect of a standing was to cost the Conservatives more votes than the other parties, and that cost them the election, well, what difference would that make? I mean, 75% of our laws aren't made in Westminster, they're made in Brussels. The manifesto that Cameron is standing on is virtually identical to the one that the Labour Party has. It's New Labour or Blue Labour. I mean, frankly, it wouldn't make any difference.
So what would you say then to the Tory Shadow Minister, Liam Fox? And he's a pretty Eurosceptic kind of guy. He says that, quote, you have to recognise that the person who would be happiest if people vote UKIP would be the leader of the Labour Party.
Well, of course, this is the old line that they always use. But as I say, there are no differences, no substantial policy differences between the two parties. Most of our laws are made somewhere else. And frankly, this argument about whether the blue rosette or the red rosette wins the next election, I don't think is the important political question. Isn't the real question, should we, through the ballot box, vote for the people that make our laws, or are we happy? And let's tell the British people the truth for the first time. Are we happy to have all the big decisions made for us somewhere else? That's what the election should be about. Now, if Liam Fox and the Conservative Party are not prepared to address that issue, don't blame UKIP for taking votes from them. Blame Mr Cameron's leadership and the fact that he's not prepared to address this issue.
But what would you feel if, as a result of voting for UKIP, that there was a hung parliament in which the Liberal Democrats, the most pro-Europe of all the parties, held the balance of power? That would hardly further...
Well, that may well happen, and of course, if it does, at the election after the next one, it'll be proportional representation, and there'll be 100 MPs from the UK Independence Party.
Are you in favour of PR?
I think that to have a first-past-the-post system, it's got the merit, of course, that one man or woman represents that town, and that's very important. But to have a situation where on 24% of the popular vote, we have a government that can do virtually whatever it likes, seems to me to be a system that is failing, and I would like to see some element of PR, yes.
Robert Kilroy-Silk said only 3 years ago, the Conservative Party is dying. Now, that's patently untrue. Wouldn't it be a better strategy for your party to make common cause with Tory Eurosceptics?
I've done that. I've written to every member of Parliament to say, and this also applies to Labour MPs as well, but to say if they're signed up to the Freedom Association's Better Off Out campaign, if they're clearly saying that we should be an independent country and we should be self-governing, we in UKIP will not put a candidate up against them. And I can't go further than that.
Well, you could, though. As I understand it, though, you've got to commit to saying that you would take Britain out of the European Union.
Well, of course. That's the debate, Andrew. The debate is, I mean, we may not like the Lib Dems and what they stand for, but at least they're honest. At least they say we should be in the EU, we should have a common foreign policy, we should have a European army, and that's the choice. Either we accept those things, or we seek a totally different relationship. I'm frankly completely bored with the very tired old Tory Eurosceptic line that somehow we can change it from within, we can reform it. Oh, don't worry, old boy, it's all coming round, we're winning the arguments in Brussels. I've just come here today from Brussels. We're not winning any arguments.
So it's not enough to be a staunch Tory Eurosceptic to avoid a UKIP challenge?
Sceptic. The word sceptic means in doubt. You know, we in UKIP are in no doubt at all, and I think the majority of British people, and now, interestingly, the majority of British businesses are of the same opinion as us. Let's have a different relationship. Let's have a trade relationship with Europe, but let's have our own political sovereignty.
So any Tory MP, or Labour MP indeed, as you say, which I assume no Lib Dems fall into this category.
No, none.
Who's worried that maybe UKIP would take away enough votes from them that they could lose their seat. They've got to be categorical and say openly, I believe Britain should leave the European Union.
That is absolutely right, and there are now 8 or 9 members of Parliament who are now standing up and clearly saying that. which is an improvement on the last Parliament when there was only one. So at least that voice is beginning to be heard in Westminster, and if more of them sign up to that, then that's fine by us. But I have a feeling, given the responses that I've had to my letter, and not all of them very polite either, I have a feeling that the majority of our political class are still signed up to the European project.
Do you expect to raise funds from people to help fight the next election for the UKIP cause? Do you expect some well-known and wealthy Tory Eurosceptics to step up to the plate?
Well, in the past, of course, Paul Sykes has helped us. He helped us in 2001, he helped us again in 2004, and we're talking about quite substantial sums of money. So he's
the rich northern businessman.
That's right, absolutely. But
Is he still helping?
And well, at the moment he's not. But Paul's only ever helped us during campaign periods. So that question needs to be asked the next time there's an election coming up. So there's an example of somebody who'd been a big Tory backer, who'd been the chairman of his local Tory association supporting us. I think, you know, talking to Tory business backers, I think that the Tory party misunderstands the mood of business. For example, the idea that we haven't got our own trade policy, that we can't make bilateral trade deals with India or anywhere else, you know, is something that no British businessman can subscribe to. And yet David Cameron's made it clear that he wants the European Commission to go on doing it. So I think from the world of business, we've got real potential. But I'll be honest, I mean, we will not succeed. UKIP will never succeed unless we raise substantial money, and that's an absolute key for us.
What about Stuart Wheeler? He's backed the Tory party. He's got money. Is he thinking of backing you?
Well, we've met with Stuart Wheeler. We've talked with Stuart Wheeler. He's got great sympathy for what we stand for. He understands what we're saying. He himself makes the point that it's actually the people lower down the social order that are suffering most as a result of European Union.
Is he writing a cheque yet?
He hasn't written one yet. I'm not going to sit here and predict that he will, but I'm hopeful.
Let's look a little bit about your own background and your leadership of UKIP. Were you involved in politics at all before you helped found UKIP?
I was a member of the Conservative Party from the age of 14 years old. I heard Keith Joseph give a speech during the Labour late 1970s government. I joined the Conservative Party. I was an inactive member of the Conservative Party. I was much too busy trying to have a career in the city. I had children fairly young in life, and so there wasn't time for politics. But it was when I saw John Major as Chancellor signing us up to the exchange rate mechanism and knowing that it would be a complete disaster. That was when I first thought, well, this is hopeless. I simply can't support this, you know.
You didn't think it would be better to work inside the party you were then supporting, to work on the Eurosceptic wing of the Tory party? Why did you start a new party?
I mean, that actually was a fairly good argument up until mid-1993, when the Maastricht Rebellion was taking place, the attempt to stop that massive step forward in the whole process of European integration. I think up until that point, there was a good argument to say it was better to fight from within. But once John Major had used the confidence motion to ram the treaty through the House of Commons, that to me was the moment at which fighting from within was a failed policy. So I was very happy in September 1993 to be one of the founder members of UKIP. To find out more about who we are and what we stand for, go to the UK Independence Party website at www.ukip.org.